Welcome to another In Wheel Time podcast, a 30-minute mini version of the In Wheel Time car show that airs live every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central.
Heard and seen around the world with our clothes on. It's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Just ahead, we're going to talk to Shay Manawar about the cost of charging an EV versus the cost of fueling your gas-powered vehicle. Jeff has this week's cruise-ins, and we'll have the stories making automotive news headlines. Today's show is sponsored by Mecum Auctions Houston at NRG Center, April 4th through the 6th. Howdy. Along with Mike out of this world, Mars, we always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Glad you could join us on this Saturday. It's a beautiful day in Houston, Texas, and out here in Snoogie Land. We're glad that you could join us, as I said. And we're also glad that Shay Manawar is joining us, too, from the Anderson Economic Group. Shay, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Well, good. It's good to talk to you again. So let's talk about ICE versus EV, internal combustion engines versus electric vehicles. And there is this myth, and I say that loosely, this myth that EVs are for free when it comes to fueling or recharging your batteries.
What?
But that is not the case, sir.
I like free.
I've learned in my life there is nothing free, and anything that is free, I try to run away from it because it eventually costs you more at the end. But I'm glad that you talked about ice because you also talked about nice Texas weather. We in Michigan had about 3-4 inches of snow, so it's back to Christmas season here.
Yeah, you did. In fact, probably July that's going to be clearing up for you. Just to let you know.
At that point, we stop hoping. I mean, we just wait till, okay, you know what, a couple of more months of not snow and then go back.
I grew up there. That's why I'm down here.
I grew up in a warmer weather and now I'm up here, but it's still good to have. It's good to be back on the show. And yes, going back to the topic of which is cheaper to charge or fuel. We have been doing these studies for nearly 2 years now. We look at quarterly data. We look at EV vehicles by segments. We look at ICE vehicle by segments, and we group them together. And then we look at which is which is cheaper, which is more expensive to fuel. Based on our last quarter of last year, it turned out that at this point of time, most of the internal combustion engine vehicles are still cheaper to fuel for most consumers compared to their EV counterparts. And we look at that based on how we classify internal combustion engines and electric vehicle cars by segments on price tags.
Okay, so the price of the vehicle does kind of play a part in this. From what I'm looking at here on the rundown, the entry-level vehicles are cheaper to fuel when it comes to gasoline engines. It's also cheaper to fuel in the mid-price. Now, these include cars and crossovers, right? And so gasoline is still cheaper there. And actually, in the difference between the entry and the mid-level pricing of cars that have internal combustion engines is less than $1. And then you jump to the luxury vehicles, and wow, the price of the luxury vehicles across every segment of your chart here is more expensive.
Yeah, and one main factor is the type of fuel that typically goes into luxury vehicles. I mean, most consumers, my understanding is they like to have premium gasoline for their premium price cars. So that plays a role. And then we also noted that accessibility to charging for luxury vehicles tend to be a little different for a typical mid-price or entry-level EV owner. For instance, we also know that most of the EV buyers who drive high-priced EV vehicles have a very settled infrastructure to charge their vehicles either at home or they can afford to have some deadhead miles to go to a commercial charging. So these are some of the factors that play a big role in how we look at the inputs, and then eventually look at how much it would cost for a typical EV driver or ICE driver to charge for at least 100 miles.
I filled up my 2001 Corvette, 3/4 of a tank of gas with premium fuel from Exxon, an Exxon station. So the supreme price per gallon was $4.09, okay, for premium fuel, and I bought 12.443 gallons of gas. Okay. And that figures out to $51 for 3/4 of a tank of gas for me this week. The Corvette, they request that you put premium fuel in.
Sure, right, yeah.
So I guess I would fall into that category, but I think I'd really kind of fall into the truck category, I think. I mean, it was expensive, man. But I think it's probably more expensive up there, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say that. I mean, having living in Texas does give you some liberty of some low rate,
less expensive fuel, right?
But that's not. Well, it may be less expensive to what he pays up there.
Right.
Do you know what the premium price of fuel up there in Detroit is?
So it's touching. It's going a little over $4 nowadays. Depends on if you go to Costco or not. If you go to Costco, then you might get a little discount. However, we also know that the pricing does play a huge role. The gas prices, for instance, last year at some point, the gasoline price, when it jumped, especially in June of 2021, it was touching 4 or 5 per gallon, even in Michigan up here, and then that discouraged many of ICE drivers. And then we also noted that the price to charge your EV was a little cheaper than the ICE vehicle. So the gas prices do play a big role, and we have been noting this every quarter. Right now, based on my understanding, the average gas price across the U.S. is about 3.2 per gallon, but that's the standard gas, not premium.
Correct. Yeah, that's close to what it is here. I think it's touching $3 a gallon right now.
Depending on where you go and the quality of the station, it could be a mom and pop that offers not the best quality grade of gasoline, I would imagine, but then you've got the Exxons like you go to, or the Shells that have a little bit different premium pricing.
I choose to buy top tier gas.
Right. You have to for your car,
for the Corvette. But I mean, even the lower tier that aren't even in the top tier, the 7-Eleven gas.
Right.
Actually, the 7-Eleven store has top tier gas.
It does.
It does. But Don's Corner Stop, it has premium gas, but it's a lot less, and we don't know what it is.
It's got a filter over the nozzle, so you don't get the stuff.
That's right.
You don't have to.
All right, so let's talk about then the comparison with the electric vehicles, and I'm sure that you've got a similar situation up there in Detroit that we have here. I know that there are power companies, power providers here that tout the fact that you get free electricity at night. If you buy their 1 year or 2 year plan, between the hours of midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning, your electricity is free. But they've got to make that up somewhere. So it's all a juggling act, And I would imagine that probably plays a price in this too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and yes, it does. But then the main factor is the size or the current infrastructure that we have for EV buyers in Michigan, for instance. I can speak for Michigan. I can also speak for the town where I live in. What we have been noting is that those who might be interested in buying EV vehicles, they would purchase despite what the energy prices are looking. I mean, just because they're interested in the vehicle, despite the price hike for many EV segments. However, for mass consumers, infrastructure is such a significant factor that goes into if they decide to buy an EV or not. And one big factor is how they can place a charging setup in their home or in an apartment where they live at. And then once they know that there is a system in place, then the EV or energy prices tend to play a role in consumer psyche. So we tend to read how consumers are behaving towards EV adoption, and every time there's a news about how batteries play a part in EV cars, I mean, it either tends to discourage them or encourage them. I mean, recently we had a news. There was a news in Wall Street Journal that it was not the lithium battery that was causing problems for the new EV drivers. It was a small 12-volt EV, not 12-volt battery that tends to fuel or tends to charge other components of the car, was causing issues for many new EV drivers. So the three big factors, what we have been noticing is, A, the infrastructure, if there's good enough or not. At this point in time, you will find a lot more gas stations than EV charging stations. And second, the price. Most of the EVs, as of right now, the average transaction price is higher than the average transaction price of a standard car.
Yeah.
And the third is, yes, the overall safety that is around the EV. And then all these three big factors have been playing a role in driving down the sales for most of the EV segments in the past couple of quarters.
What do you drive?
I recently got a Toyota Grand Highlander.
Okay.
And a Buick LaCrosse. So those two cars, my wife and I, depending on who's driving the
And you drive a LaCrosse?
I drive a LaCrosse, which is 3.6.
Right. Those would be a cool. Well, a friend of mine had one. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you had an EV or not, is what I'm thinking.
So we have few folks in our office who have EVs. So we do bank on their experiences. And then if we have a snowy season in Michigan, and then if you're trying to travel up north where there's any charging infrastructure placed, I would rather take my ICE vehicle than the EV. And that's how it plays in the consumer psyche. I mean, they would buy an EV, but many consumers who tend to buy EV also are typical affluent consumers. I mean, they can afford to have two vehicles in their household. One could be EV, one could be an ICE, and then they can pick between which one they want to drive if they are going for a longer distance drive.
And they can afford the charging system for the home as well.
And that is a big factor, because
very big.
Commercial charging. Yep. If you look at the chart, I mean, it's at times it's more expensive to charge cars at commercial booths, and then at times we don't have them enough. And then some of the new EPA standards you probably would have noted that was recently released by the federal government. They expect that EV share of sales to go up around 30% in the U.S. as of right now. Only 8% of the cars that were sold in the U.S. as of last quarter.
Well, Shay, do you see more charging systems going in for the public, like at a restaurant or maybe a big box store? Because I do see those here in the Houston area, the markets that I go to weekly. Some of the new constructions, there's new clinics, there's new car dealerships, there's new whatever the case, but they're allowing for, and it's part of the construction of an EV section in the parking lot, be it at the side of the building, the back of the building, or wherever. But that's all being incorporated into the new builds that I see now going on here in the Houston area.
That's a very good point, because we have also noted that any new construction, they are considering how they can bring in the EV charging infrastructure. So we have noted some new parking structures, for instance, here in Michigan.
Right.
They do have some spots for maybe a half a floor is dedicated to EV vehicles, or some big grocery stores they have. But then again, the U.S. is such a big country, and then the way the auto industry is set up, you have a franchise system, and then it's based on 3-tier. The adoption will look very different for an urban community such as Houston compared to a community here in Lansing or a mid-sized cities in other parts of the country. So it depends on what type of growth we are noticing in different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. Houston is a growing region compared to, let's just say, I would say Baltimore or Detroit.
Right.
The growth is still there, but it's not as humongous as compared to
Houston being an energy capital of the United States and possibly the world and beyond, that this is sort of a different take because of being oil, drill, and then now you've got the electrical side of it or the EV side of it. So that's kind of being incorporated. I think Houston's actually kind of leading in some respect on getting that built through the infrastructure rather than just a typical city somewhere, maybe a smaller town. Maybe a smaller town in West Texas or maybe somewhere else in the United States in the flyover country. But I see that more and more now here in Houston as well.
That's a very good point because I was in Salt Lake City a few months ago, and I did note that the infrastructure, charging infrastructure seemed robust. I mean, it was, but again, I mean, the average or typical household income in Salt Lake City is very different from a typical household income in a city like Detroit.
On the other side of that, there's also gas stations being built quite frequently. From the Studio A here to my house, there's probably 3 corners that there's new gas stations going up, and that's incredible because there's on the 4 corners of the street, 3 of them have gas stations. So, and they're all different brands, make sizes. Some are you walk in and buy stuff, and others are just the pumps. So that's kind of relating to it too. So there's growth on both the gas side and the EV side. Now, who's going to win? I don't know.
My take is the adoption is going to happen. I wouldn't say it's a new technology. It's a technology that the auto industry has been testing for a number of years. People will start embracing EVs, but then you cannot just force upon EV on any individual. That's a trend we have noted in the past couple of years. As of right now, what we have noted as of last quarter sales, less than 500,000 sales presented battery electric vehicles in the U.S. I'm talking about.
Do you think that is because of the charging infrastructure, or do you think it's the price of the vehicles, or the price of interest on the loans that you have to get? Because the average price of a vehicle now is $50,000, and above that comes for the most part, the EV. And I don't know, with the way that the infrastructure is, that's an awful lot of money to pay for rolling the dice and seeing whether or not you like it or not.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you mentioned. I think all those 3 factors do play a role. The price, yes, average transaction price of a standard vehicle in the U.S. Is about $47,000. It has started to come down from $48,000 or $49,000. But the average transaction price of a new EV is still around $54,000, $53,000 ballpark. But then that's predominantly because of how Tesla has brought their prices down.
Yeah.
And most of the BEV sales that we note are coming from Tesla. I mean, Mach-E and then Cadillac and Hyundai. I mean, they're experiencing some growth in their sales, but it would be hard to catch up with Tesla in the next few years. That's my understanding. However, some of the new battery plants that are being constructed across the country, it may play a factor, let's just say 5 or 6 years from now, when those plants start to churn up all those batteries, and then we will see increased lineup of EV vehicles presented by each OEM. As of right now, there are not enough EVs from legacy brands in the US, especially the big 3. And then when they do, the big question is, are people going to like them, enjoy them, buy them, and drive them for a longer period of time so that you tend to pass it on to the next generation, which is the EV adoption?
Well, I've been a big proponent of hybrid vehicles, and I see that General Motors has kind of backed up just a little bit and said, we're not going to do away with all of the hybrids just yet. We are going to reintroduce hybrids to the mix because I think that they realize that there is a tweener that is going to really be drawn to a vehicle like a hybrid as opposed to a full EV. Mm-hmm. Shay, it's great to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us today. Anderson Economic Group, where can we find more information from them?
You can always visit our website. However, our CEO Patrick Anderson, he's pretty active on social media such as LinkedIn. He was recently quoted multiple times on Wall Street Journal and other publications. But I told him yesterday that I'm coming to your show. He told me to say hi to you guys, and he wants to come back next time we get an invitation. So
You bet.
Always an open door. Give us a call anytime you got some new news for us.
absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, and enjoy the nice warm weather. And if you need, we can some ice.
No, we're good. We'll send some warm
Don't
temperatures
forget
up
to
there.
wear your mucklucks today.
Your mucklucks. There you go. Shay, thank you again. Shay Manawar with Anderson Economic Group. All right, time now on the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show for the cruise-in calendar.
Okay, here we go.
Jeffrey has that.
All right, I do. There's one going on right now. This came into me late this past week, but it's going on right now. It's a cruise to Kuntz Park event. You got to meet. They were supposed to meet in Cleveland at the Brookshire Brothers in Cleveland, and then they drove out. They're going to meet up with the Wild Horse Mustang Club, which they're probably doing right about now, and then they're going to
And they're listening to this show.
Yeah, and listening to the show, and they're going to go to the Picket House Cruise, so that promises to be a good event. Also today, going on in just a few moments, it's going to start at 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. It's Get Low, Houston. It's at 26427 Peden Road in Magnolia, which is a bit of a cruise, but I see the weather outside's clearing up very nicely, and again, it goes to 5 p.m. So tomorrow is the Test and Tune again at Houston Motorsports Park. We'll keep saying that until they don't have it. It is from noon to 8 p.m. tomorrow. And then also tomorrow from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. you got the Savage Sunday Exotic Car Show 2 in the Heights. And it is at 1213 West 20th Street in Houston, Texas. It goes from 2 to 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Wait a minute. It's the erotic. What is it again?
No, it's the exotic.
Oh,
car
exotic.
show.
Sorry.
Oh,
My mistake.
no, exotic.
The erotic.
Not erotic.
All right.
That's Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, it's the Monday show.
Great. I got some stories to tell you about. Making car news this week. We get our news from Automotive News. If you ever wanted to dress like a mechanic or show support for Ford Motor Company, they need it. You can get it in distressed denim. The automaker has partnered with apparel company Forever 21. I know you visit there quite frequently,
Well,
don't you?
I'm a little bit older than that.
Well, I don't know. You act like a teenager many days. You can go to Forever 21.
More like Baby Tomorrow.
And the erotic show. There you go.
A limited edition fashion collection that Ford said reintroduces today's generation to a bygone era of quintessential Americana that saw car culture at the forefront. Notice they said that in past tense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Products in the 28-piece collection available online and in stores now range from a $17.99 rhinestone graphic T-shirt and Gloria Vanderbilt jeans.
Why is he looking at me? He's looking at me when he's... Come on now.
Some of those chick jeans, those tight ones that you
What do they
wear,
call
those
it?
low riders.
Skinny jeans.
Skinny jeans with
So
rhinestones
the
on it.
$17.99 rhinestone graphic T-shirt to $79.99 unisex Mustang coveralls. That's for you, Jeffrey.
Shirtless coveralls.
The various shirts, pants, jackets, hats, and sweatshirts feature either the blue oval logo in just the right place,
Where do you put it?
or graphics of the Mustang sports car on Bronco SUVs. Forever 21 of Los Angeles has about 400 stores nationwide.
Not anymore.
You'll find Jeffrey making personal visits there beginning this afternoon. Sorry, I make myself laugh. I just can't help it.
He'll be modeling the coveralls.
The coveralls.
We're gonna cut them off and make some.
There's no mention of chaps.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
You know the kind you're
I
talking
know
about.
exactly which kind you're talking about. Oh, my Lord.
God.
I just have that vision.
No, I don't.
I do. I do. With you in
Save
some
me.
cut-off coveralls.
We just lost 13 countries on the broadcast.
On the broadcast. Speaking of Ford Motor Company, a glut of late arriving 23 models have driven Lincoln Motor Company inventory to the highest levels in the industry, promoting the brand to boost incentives and use other strategies to help dealers sell down the remaining backlog. Matter of fact, I've been seeing commercials for the Lincoln Navigator, and good luck. Lincoln had more than 4 months' worth of inventory at the end of February, more than any other brand outside of those owned by Stellantis, according to Cox Automotive. About 1/3 of its unsold vehicles were from the previous model year. Go buy an old car.
Yeah.
Company data shows that Lincoln's February gross stock of 33,000 vehicles was nearly triple that of a year earlier. Officials pinned the high levels on a confluence of factors. That's a confluence, like they have on a river.
Yep.
Including a continued normalization of supply after years of shortages. A months-long stop sale on the Aviator for a defective rear-view camera system, coupled with a 26-day UAW strike at the Chicago plant where it's built. Boo-hoo. It delayed shipments to the dealers until late in the year. A later-than-expected launch of the freshened Corsair over software issues in early 23 also played a role.
It's actually a good-looking vehicle.
Among the deals available to Lincoln buyers, according to a gentleman named Poulos, I guess it's a dealership here in Houston. Well, he owns West Point Lincoln. He said 0.9% interest for 60 months on the 2023 Nautilus and the 2.9% for 60 months on 2023 Aviators. Poulos, who owns West Point Lincoln in Houston, said 2023 models accounted for roughly 40% of his February sales and that he expected to be sold out of them by the end of May. Hurry on over to your local Lincoln dealer today. Yep. Just thought I'd bring that up. And Ferrari was accused in a U.S. lawsuit of failing to fix a dangerous safety defect with the brakes in some of its sports cars, despite issuing multiple recalls. Recalls were no more than an interim corrective measure for one of the identified brake problems, leaving thousands of Ferrari drivers in unsafe vehicles, according to the proposed class action suit filed Monday in the U.S. District Court in San Diego. California resident Ilya Nechev, not a local, claims that his 2010 Ferrari 458 Italia, which he bought in 2020, had brake issues from the day he got it and would experience partial or total loss of braking capability. Yikes! Ferrari is accused of not notifying customers of the full extent of the brake defect, which Nechev says could only be fixed by replacing the master cylinder. Instead, the company continued to sell or benefit from the sale of thousands of cars containing this life-threatening defect, according to the complaint. So you own a Ferrari, you need to fix it. All right.
It's number 3.
All right. That would be,
Number 3 brake.
Number 3. Oh, okay. Well, time now for a quick break here. It's not going to be too quick, but we'll be right back on the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show after this.
ProAm Auto Accessories has been serving Houston's auto enthusiasts since 1984, providing world-class products for sports cars, European sedans, and American muscle. ProAm is known as the place to go to find exclusive and hard-to-find parts and accessories. ProAm is one of the very first distributors in the USA for brands such as Recaro, Redline, Momo, Corbo, and Simpson. Located in the heart of Houston's premier retail and service corridor, the Galleria area, ProAm's walk-in storefront includes an 8,000 square foot warehouse, showroom, and installation bays. ProAm not only sells parts and accessories, but also offers installation and service. ProAm is now reaching a worldwide audience through ProAm.com, taking its local reputation to the rest of the world. At ProAm Auto, you'll be dealing with a small group of professionals who truly want to help you with your automotive needs. If you don't see what you're looking for on the website, call and ProAm will lend you a hand. ProAm Auto, 6125 Richmond at Green Ridge in Houston's Galleria area. Call them at 713-781-7755. Want to feel good about something special you did for someone special? In-Wheel Time and the original Loopy Tortilla group of Tex-Mex restaurants have joined together to help a very worthy cause, God's Garage, a Christian-based 501c3 charity. We know there are lots of places and organizations out there where you can donate a car, truck, or SUV, but we're asking you, our car enthusiast family, to consider donating to God's Garage. Visit godsgarage.org and learn about its mission, the women that have been helped, how each one is screened, and about their Restore You program. A car donation is an easy way to make a difference in the lives of others. God's Garage needs good operating vehicles, but will take all types in working and non-working condition. Make your heart and soul feel good by donating your gently used vehicle and help support single mothers, widows, and wives of deployed military at godsgarage.org.
Mecum Auctions, the world's largest collector car auction company, returns to Houston, Texas, April 4th through the 6th at NRG Center, featuring 1,000 muscle cars, Corvettes, trucks, customs, and more. Broadcast on Motor Trend TV and streaming live on Max. From avid collectors to those new to the Mecum experience, we welcome everyone. Register to bid now at Mecum.com.
Hey, I wanted to remind everybody that coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to have John Craman from Mecum Auction Houston, and he'll be talking about the big event coming your way in a couple of weeks, actually less than 2 weeks. And it's always great to talk to him because he has insight on automotive that you don't get from anywhere else. But we're going to talk to him after another quick break. Stay with us.
The original group of Loopy Tortilla restaurants will have you telling your family and friends just what the original recipes mean when it comes to the best fajitas in Southeast Texas. Founder Stan Holt invites you to visit the original Loopy Tortilla near I-10 and Highway 6. Here's the original house that inspired the design of all the rest and the original charm that helped make Loopy Tortilla the go-to destination for Houston Tex-Mex. Speaking of original, nothing can compete with the original lime pepper marinade that everyone will agree makes Loopy Tortilla award-winning beef fajitas the best anywhere. Loopy Tortilla Katy is another location that gives you the same quality and service Houstonians have come to expect at Loopy's. It's located just off I-10 and the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard in Katy. Find yourself in Aggie Land? Head to the Loopy Tortilla in College Station, located just around the corner from Kyle Field. It's a great place to enjoy those famous frozen margaritas before or after the game. Headed east to Louisiana? Stop in at the Loopy Tortilla in Beaumont. It too's on I-10. You can't miss it. The original group of Loopy Tortilla restaurants invites you in for the best Tex-Mex anywhere. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. That's it for this podcast episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Podcast, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Pandora, and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon.